This video is less of a review of the new Outer Limits Season 1 box set from Kino Lorber, which is now out, and is wonderful. It's less a review of that than it is just kind of an overview of the Outer Limits and a way for me to express my enthusiasm for the Outer Limits television show. It caught me as a little kid. I got the Outer Limits bug as a little kid in the 90s watching TNT, and it's just carried on. And throughout the years, I mean, the Outer Limits to me, I think, is one of the greatest science fiction television shows ever. So Outer Limits, early 60s, 1963 to 65, only 2 seasons, an incredible black and white television series. Of course, you had Twilight Zone before it, and Twilight Zone is the most well-known science fiction fantasy anthology TV series. And in a way, the success of Twilight Zone allowed a show like The Outer Limits to be created. But The Outer Limits was a little bit different. I mean, to me, The Outer Limits is like the picture of a cult sci-fi show, a cult TV show in general. I mean, it may have well been the first really cult sci-fi television show, because Twilight Zone is everywhere. You know, you can buy the box set at Walmart, the Twilight Zone, the entire series. Throughout the 80s and the 90s, Twilight Zone was syndicated, shown on television. That's how I was first exposed to it, all over the place. But The Outer Limits, I don't think, was really shown. I don't even know if it was really syndicated. It was very difficult to see The Outer Limits. In the early 90s, they released it on VHS with this beautiful VHS box art. They released a series of 4 Laserdisc box sets, which actually did not have all the shows, did not have all the episodes from both seasons. It was kind of like, and it was weird, because it was like from 90 to 91 was when the first volume of the Laserdisc was released, and then they went over to volume 4, and it was released from like 91 to like 95. It was over this period of 5 years. Every once in a while they released these box sets. And it didn't have all the episodes, and the episodes were not on the chronological order. They'd throw a couple season 1, season 2 episodes together, just the best of the bunch kind of a thing. But really, how I got exposed to the Outer Limits, to the Limits, is on TNT. You know, like many people, TNT Monster Vision was like my gateway to the bizarre. It was throughout the 90s, from the early 90s in Monster Vision, and later on Monster Vision became Joe Bob Briggs. But in the early 90s, Monster Vision ran this series of Outer Limits marathons, where they would show all these episodes. There's a bunch of videos on YouTube of these marathons, but there's one long video. It's like 30 minutes that kind of collates all of the promotional and the interstitials. They did interviews. They did interviews with Shatner and Harlan Ellison and Leslie Stevens, the creator of the Outer Limits, and everybody. And it was wonderful. It was such a wonderful, magical time as a little kid to be staying up late at night chucking tapes into the VCR and recording this Outer Limits marathon on TNT. Back when TNT was like the top, one of the great channels, you know, before they just. Oh man, that to me was, it was almost as much more of a tragedy of, you know, losing USA Network, losing the vintage TNT. There was just so much magic to me in the vintage TNT with stuff like the Outer Limits marathon. But it hooked me. It hooked me. It still wasn't that easy to see. For years, I was watching my Outer Limits tapes. In the late 90s and the early 2000s, Sci-Fi Channel in the US and the UK started broadcasting the Outer Limits. They started re-showing it. And then throughout the 90s, you had that Outer Limits, the new version of the Outer Limits, the Showtime series. And I watched those. You know, some people have a great adulation and enthusiasm for those like the Sand Kings. I think there were some really great episodes. I've never really explored it. Every time I was going by on my dial, I was watching the Outer Limits. It seemed like just like a vehicle for nudity. You know, it was like we got to have some nudity at some point. We got an episode of Female Robot. At some point, she has to be naked. It was one of those things. And to me, the Outer Limits what really drove me crazy about the show was, first of all, of course, the cover art, the promotional pieces. Because even before I'd watched it, I'd read about it in the 80s in these monster magazines and monster books. Oh, there was a series, and you'd see like the iCar and the Zandy Misfits and the Six Finger. You'd see those monsters, and Outer Limits got the reputation as being Monster of the Week, really, but it was. Twilight Zone was supposed to be this cerebral, parables, beautiful, and Outer Limits was a monster show. It was the Monster of the Week. When really, Outer Limits is full of this poetic black and white cinematography, which is like beautiful and artistic and in a way transcending the television medium. It's just such a beautiful looking show for the most part. Even the ordinary episodes look beautiful because it was shot by, Conrad Hall was one of the main, the guy who shot In Cold Blood, and a brilliant cinematographer. One of the great cameramen was working on this show and molding the black and white cinematography. Makeup effects were incredible, and it had a certain poetic nature to it. I mean, from the beginning of the show, when that control voice hit you, from the inner mind to the outer limits, and the titles of the shows were so poetic. Like in season 2, the Keepers of the Purple Twilight, the iCar, what the Keepers of the Purple Twilight. I mean, the titles of the shows. I mean, and the amount of the talent that worked on these shows, like Robert Culp, who did not just one Outer Limits, not just 2, but multiple. I mean, he starred in like multiple classic Outer Limits episodes, like The Architects of Fear, the episode where a cabal of scientists conspire to create this fake alien who's going to scare people into giving up their nuclear arms race. And which is less like a monster movie and more like, it has more to do with like David Cronenberg's The Fly, because it's this emotional story about this guy Robert Culp who has to leave everything and leave an entire life to pursue a higher ideal. It's such an interesting concept, and the storytelling of these episodes were so interesting. Like The Chameleon, which stars Robert Duvall, about this guy who's like this CIA deep cover operative who has no life. He just becomes his mission and his transformation into an alien, because there's this spaceship that's set down in the middle of the woods and nobody knows what's going on, so they want to send in an alien operative. I mean, narratively, it's kind of ridiculous, the idea of we can, this sci-fi plot device that we can genetically alter Robert Duvall to become an alien and have be an alien double agent or something. But it's really not about the sci-fi. It's a character piece about this guy about the Robert Duvall character. It's such an interesting thing, because it's not like Irwin Allen Land of the Lost. It's not about monsters and thrills and spills. It is about that, and there's beautiful monsters. I mean, the fish people, the fish people in tourist attraction, and the Six Finger, which is one of the great early monster makeups. The Six Finger, David McCallum, another guy who did so many good episodes, but. There's just such a poetic nature to these episodes, and like with Robert Culp, guys like that, having heavy guys like David McCallum and Robert Culp, who was again knocked it out of the park in Architects of Fear and Demon with the Glass Hand and Corpus Earthling, which is like this sci-fi invasion monster movie. Incredible stuff. The look of the thing, the style of the thing, it's so unique, it's so of a piece, it's so Outer Limits. Harlan Ellison with his Soldier and Demon with the Glass Hand, the 2 episodes that he wrote, which may or may not have inspired Terminator. So many incredible episodes, so many incredible characters, the artwork, the art direction, the moodiness of it. It's like a 50s monster movie, but with a poeticism and a heart and a beat to it that's so unique and so different than really any other thing that's come out before or since. let's talk about the Blu-ray box set. Now, the digital history of Outer Limits is rather brief. In the early 2000s, MGM released a couple of box sets of the seasons 1 and 2. This was around 2002, 2003, 2004, 2007. There's a few different box sets that came out in the US and in Europe and in other places. And then they went out of print. And then that was it. For a while, that was the only way you could watch Outer Limits, is tracking down these out-of-print box sets. And that was it. There was some showings on the Sci-Fi Channel that were going on in the early 2000s. That was another way to watch it. And then a few years ago, I believe, just very recently, Hulu has started showing Outer Limits. But on DVD, it was out of print until now. Kino Lorber has released this beautiful 7-disc box set. Beautiful packaging, which is like the black and white theme of the series. It really is packaging befitting the Outer Limits. Nice 40-page booklets. And the main feature, the main special feature or group of special features which are on these Blu-rays are a set of commentary tracks to almost every episode. Beautiful commentary tracks by David J. Scal, who wrote The Outer Limits Companion, Tim Lucas, a video watchdog, and a number of other Outer Limits historians, fans, what have you. And so I'd like to go through just all the episodes on season 1, and you'll see. I mean, the Outer Limits. I mean, the titles of the episodes are incredible, but I can't. I hesitate giving really big, long, detailed reviews of all these episodes, because the thing about Outer Limits is that the episodes, the show is just, it's such full of so many twists and turns. It's so clever that oftentimes reading a synopsis of an episode will almost spoil an episode in a way that it's not really not the same than the Twilight Zone. It's something different. It's different than the Twilight Zone. There's something so clever and beautiful about the construction of these Outer Limits episodes. It blows my mind. So we start with Galaxy Bean. The Galaxy Bean, starring Cliff Robertson. Beautiful pilot episode of the Outer Limits with that Galaxy Bean monster, who is this, Cliff Robertson in communication with this alien, in radio communication, and the radio communication breaks, and the alien gets sucked into our world. Oh man, real incredible. The 100 Days of the Dragon was the next episode. This like political thriller, which is fit for John Frankenheimer, but it has a kind of a sci-fi edge, a sci-fi technological edge. Architects of Fear, we talked about that. The Man with the Power, Donald Pleasance. The Sixth Finger, with that incredible makeup job on David McCallum. The Man Who Was Never Born, with I believe wasn't that the episode with Martin Landau where he was the guy, and Obit, Human Factor, Corpus Earthling, oh my god, Nightmare, an alien POW camp with a young Martin Sheen and Bill Gunn of Ganja and Hess. Oh, incredible one. It Crawled Out of the Woodwork, the Borderland. Whew. This is like early 1960s television, and we're having these poetic, strange, like David Lynchian episodes, that episode of Twin Peaks, the revival, the season 3 of Twin Peaks on Showtime, where they go and there's like that black and white episode with the atomic bomb in the 1950s. That reminded me of the Outer Limits, definitely. The Xantine Misfits, the Xantine Misfits. Controlled Experiment, Don't Open Until Doomsday, Zzz, The Invisibles, The Bolero Shield, The Children of Spire County, Specimen Unknown. There's so many of these that I haven't watched. It's just The Guest, Fun and Games, the special one. I watched the special one, with these aliens grooming children to take over the. I just spoiled. I didn't totally spoil it. A feasibility study, Production and Decay of Strange Particles. Oh my god. A title of a show. The Chameleon, The Forms of Things Unknown. Oh man, commentary tracks aplenty, beautiful cover art, beautiful booklet. Everything about this box set is total class. The only thing that leaves me wanting is I want season 2. I want season 2 with Soldier and Dealing the Glass Hand and all of those great episodes that were in season 2 of The Outer Limits. Well, you could go on for hours and hours and hours about The Outer Limits. An incredible show from the black and white, from the soundtrack, Dominic Frontiere. It's another thing. Beautiful, melancholy, poetic, just an incredible show. And it's like you watch an Outer Limits episode and it begins with the control voice and da 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 da, and then the end, it feels like you've accomplished something. You've watched that. You've unlocked another key into the kingdom of incredible science fiction. Every episode I watch, I'm like, wow, I'm blown away by it. Incredible show that to me, I mean, it's almost like, you know, like Quentin Tarantino and Pulp Fiction. There's like Beatles fans and there's Elvis fans, and to me there's like and Beatles fans and Elvis fans, they can get together and you can but there's Beatles people and there's Elvis people. You know, to me there's like Twilight Zone people and there's Outer Limits people. And I feel like I am firmly entrenched in the Outer Limits people camp. So, The Outer Limits, it's not just the Monster of the Week. It's more than, it's beautiful, poetic, beautiful black and white television show. One of the best of its kind. Really one of the only, it's such a unique animal, The Outer Limits. Worthy of watching, whether it be VHS or DVD or the new Blu-ray or whatever. It's also showing now on Comet TV, the Comet TV television station. So check with your in your local area. You might be able to pick up on over-the-air digital. And the Comet TV has a wonderful website, Outer Limits website, where they talk about it and you can see their schedule. They're playing just one episode a day, usually late at night, really kind of in the witching hour. You'll get a little bit of a alchemical dose of the Outer Limits. And they're also playing the Outer Limits, the 90s revival of Outer Limits there as well. But great stuff. You can also watch it online as well, at commenttv.com. They also have a Roku and Apple TV app. You can just live stream the show as well. So that's a good kind of free way to get your Outer Limits fix. Incredible. Outer Limits, an incredible show.
On behalf of the motion picture industry, welcome to the world of home video entertainment.